People ask Reddit, what is something you have that you're pretty sure no one else has? My dad saved the very button that the King of Sweden pushed to engage a new production line in the factory he worked in. The factory was shut down a few years later and Dad took the opportunity to bring the button with him on his last days of work. Edit, haha, the king didn't work in the factory. It was as an opening ceremony for the production line. The wood industry is huge in Sweden, so it was a kind of big deal for the economy and so on and so on. Did he bring Minnie the Moocher with him? He gave him things that he was needing. Specifically, a button. A key to unlock the B6 level on an elevator in the World Trade Center along with a matching Port Authority issued ID card. For some reason, I find this one to be the most interesting. What was B6 level? The lowest basement level in the Trade Center complex. Below that, bedrock. On the sides, concrete walls going 70 up to the surface to keep groundwater infiltrating from the Hudson River at bay. The path tubes ran through it. The company that I worked for had gear down there that I needed to maintain on occasion. I have a dimple in my thigh from when my mother had an amniocentesis when she was pregnant with me and they hit me with the needle. It's a scar from before birth. That is cool, but I am glad they hit your leg and not your head. Amen. Imagine if they had, it'd probably be really bad. It's not that bad. It happened to me. I'm sure other people have it, but not many people have both. I inherited a real Apollo 11 patch that went to the moon from my grandfather who worked on the mission, and my aunt gave me a Mercury astronaut test helmet worn by Alan Shepard. My grandfather was an engineer and worked on a part of the booster for the Apollo 11. Edit, I have zero cool mementos. If it makes you feel any better, my grandfather also was an engineer that worked on all of the Apollo missions and most of the Gemini. I was left with a lot of very cool items, but they were all destroyed by a flood at my house about 6 months after he passed away. No, I do not feel better. That is terrible. I'm sorry for all your losses. Your grandfather and your cool items. There are literally dozens of us who had cool grandpas. 800-day streak in Duolingo. Edit. The streak is actually 794. I suppose you will pardon the roundup. I know about streak freezes, but I haven't used more than 4 or 5 of them. The ones that protect your streak for the whole weekend, I've never used those. Language, I went through Japanese, German, and Italian, and I've been focusing only on Italian for the last year and a half. I'm a Spanish speaker. Did I learn? Well, as much as you could expect from 5 minutes a day. I guess by now I have a decent tourist level and could more or less handle myself around Italy, but I'm very far from maintaining a casual conversation. Congratulations for all your streaks, higher than mine and otherwise. Keep up learning. You know what happens if you don't. Listen, I worked really hard to get to 100. Then I missed a fucking day and now I'm at 0. I haven't opened in months now. I had the same experience. Maybe their app would get more use if they didn't piss their users off into never opening the app again. Mid-condition Nirvana ticket for a concert they never played due to Kurt Cobain's death. April 94, Manchester GMX. The ticket says March 94, but this was postponed due to an overdose and rehab. It was rescheduled for April, then he died. Me and my mate booked the coaches and hotel twice, and had to cancel twice. Maybe they'll come back. I heard rumors that their drummer was going to start a band. Like that'll be any good. And he's not even gonna play the drums, what an idiot. I have a tiny school book from the 1800s and the covers are filled with the writings of a little girl. I'm trying to track down her descendants to give them this book, because I don't like having something so valuable and irreplaceable in my possession, but there is no other little book like it. It is a history book and many of the entries would now be considered racist, especially toward Native Americans, and also this little girl, and likely her children and grandchildren, are long gone. That reminds me, I have a book of poems from my great-great-aunt who wrote personal poems through her life from the late 1800s when she went to the big city to learn to be a seamstress and well into the 1900s, and it really captures an essence of what life was like for her back then. Some poems are hilarious, some observational, and one very, very sad one of her little sister who died at age 4 in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Thanks for reminding me. I really need to finish recording the poems on computer and do something with them. If anyone has suggestions, I'd appreciate it. Edit to say wow everyone, thank you so much. This actually makes me really emotional since I promised my late grandmother, who I was close with, and she was close with her great aunt, that I'd find a way to archive and preserve her poems. Edit to say wow everyone, thank you so much. This actually makes me really emotional since I promised my late grandmother, who I was close with, and she was close with her great aunt, that I'd find a way to archive and preserve her poems. Second edit, so many have expressed wanting to read her poems, so thank you, sincerely, for the interest. Once I figure out the best way to really share them on the internet, I'll post a link here. I'm assuming if someone saves a post it'll update with the edits. Regardless, I will find a way share them on Reddit, on r/pics or any other suitable subreddits for people to enjoy. Again, thank you all for finding value in a stranger's great-great-aunt's poems. You've motivated and inspired me to ensure I find a way to keep my promise to my grandma in archiving/preserving these, and to also share these with those who'd appreciate them, so thank you. My grandfather was on the USS Indianapolis during World War II and was transferred off of it before they delivered the bombs and it sank. He happened to take a book from the ship's library and never returned it. I inherited all of his books and happened to stumble across it while going through them. It's stamped with the ship's library stamp. So unless any other sailor took a book from the library of the USS Indianapolis before it sank and then held on to it all these years, this may be the only one in the world. A piece of a turbine from a crashed Airbus A300. WTF, how did you obtain this? I was in charge of the environmental cleanup following the crash. We removed some 6,000 yards of contaminated soil. When we were loading one of the trucks, the NTSB guy spotted it in the dirt and said something to the effect of, "That's a really valuable piece of metal, I wouldn't let it go to the landfill," so I grabbed it and threw it in my truck. It's fairly large. I had planned to do something cool with it, but it turns out it's too hard of a metal alloy for anyone to work with without specialized tools. So now it sits in my garage. The crash was in 2013, it was a cargo plane, the pilots died. The master recording of the Phantom of the Opera, or part of it, anyway. My dad was the recording engineer, so he had the tape from when they made an album of the show with the original cast. Edit, bonus item. A silver Tiffany's cup and spoon that was given to me when I was born by Phyllis Diller. She also had it engraved, "Love, Phyllis Diller." Edit 2, haha, clearly worded the Phyllis Diller bit oddly. My parents were friend with her, so she gave them an engraved silver Tiffany's cup and spoon when I was born. She was in no way involved in the birth. My dumbass cat. He just fell about the drawer he was napping in, meowed at me, and sheepishly left the room. Thank you for listening to another B-Town Reddit Stories episode. Hit the subscribe button and check out our channel for more stories. Let us know your opinion about this topic in the comments.